Gay marriage is wrong, and there is a very good reason why. First of all, I must stress that none of the arguments in this video come from any religious books or any sort of God. These arguments are solely about the health of society. At the present time, it seems that the majority of Americans believe that gay marriage is acceptable, and that anyone who thinks otherwise is hateful and ignorant. However, this is a recent development. Up until the last few decades, marriage was assumed to be between one man and one woman, or less frequently between one man and several women. It was simply unthinkable to believe that there could be marriage between two men or two women. It would make as much sense as talking about a man marrying his toaster, or a woman marrying her bathtub. There is a huge misconception that people have about marriage, which makes them think that gay marriage is possible. They believe that marriage is about love between two people, but this could not be further from the truth. Very successful cultures have traditions going back thousands of years in which marriages were arranged, and the bride and the groom met only briefly before they were married. And these marriages lasted, and they worked very well for those cultures. The concept of a love marriage in which people spend years getting to know one another is very far outside of what is normal for marriage, which should tell us that marriage has never been about romance or affection between two people. If marriage is not about feelings between two people, then what is marriage? The details of marriage traditions differ between cultures, but we do see a common marriage tradition in many different cultures and in many different times. This tradition is a giant wedding feast in which members of the family and community are invited. These gatherings are so common that nearly everyone has been to one. For most families, the only time that extended families get together is for weddings and funerals. Why is it so important that the community be invited to a wedding? The reason is that weddings have never been about two people. Weddings have always been about a couple, along with everyone that they know. Why is this? Why is a wedding about a community? The reason was given to us by Hillary Clinton when she said, "It takes a village to raise a child." Raising children is one of the most difficult tasks that any human will face, and they need a lot of help. In genuine marriages, in which there is a father and a mother, the man and the woman each had their different roles in raising the children, and like all human endeavors, things sometimes went wrong. But it was in the community's best interest that the children be raised properly. Thus, if the family needed financial help, the community was there. If childcare was needed, the community was there. The community also acted as law enforcers. If the wife began to hang out with other men too much, the women of the community put pressure on her, because if the man doubted that the children were his, the family could fail, and this would hurt the community. If the husband began to drink too much, if he became violent, or gamble too much, the community was there to set things straight. Above all else, the purpose of marriage has always been to create a stable environment for raising children, and the community played a major role in this. When the man and the woman in a marriage took on the role of raising children, it was like getting a promotion at work. Suddenly the man and the woman had far greater responsibility, and for the first time they were truly adults. They were no longer selfish children, but were now people who no longer thought of themselves first. For a mentally healthy person in a healthy marriage, the children always come first, and the community has always been there to help out. This is the heart of what marriage is. However, something happened to destroy marriage. The community that gave marriage's meaning up until recently was made up of people who were blood relatives of the couple, and the larger group of people with a shared language, culture, and religion. A man and a woman were helped in raising the children by people who looked, talked, and thought like them. The institution of marriage was destroyed by various forces, such as the Industrial Revolution, global travel, and near universal literacy. But these forces will be looked at in other videos. What is more important is that these forces resulted in extreme wealth in Western countries, which created welfare states. When welfare became abundant, no longer was the community needed to help raise children. The government provided public schools, health programs for children, food assistance for mothers and children, as well as monthly welfare checks. And then the community became obsolete. The truth is, the people of the community were happy enough to stop interfering in the lives of various couples and to retreat to their televisions and later the internet. The couples, and more recently single mothers, were happy to no longer have the community making sure that they didn't have sex outside of the marriage or to drink too much. Marriage was always about help from the community in raising children, and this help was most welcome when it was needed. But when Western nations became wealthier, and even poor people had access to generous welfare, the community was seen as nebby and sticking their noses where it didn't belong. And then marriage died. Today, marriage is a rapidly decaying institution. At about the same time that marriage was dying, the homosexuals realized that average people were no longer interested in defending this ancient institution, that it had existed for as long as humanity had been on the earth. However, the homosexuals didn't want the responsibilities of marriage that came with children, but instead they wanted the support of the community that had previously been given to mothers and fathers. The community had provided generous benefits such as tax breaks and increased status to parents, with the understanding that it was really for the children. What homosexuals are now demanding when they ask for gay marriage is status, goodwill, and wealth that was always intended for raising children. And this is why homosexual marriage is such a problem. Wealth and emotions that were supposed to keep children safe are now being spilled on sterile and meaningless unions that benefit only the homosexual couple and not the greater society. Communities all throughout the West are dying and being replaced by non-Western peoples and cultures because time, money, and emotions that previously were spent on raising children are now being spent on trivialities. Gay marriage did not destroy the West, but it is a symptom of greater problems, and it is exacerbating the decay and fall because it is part of the death of the family, and society losing its focus on children as the future. To put it as simply as possible, children have gone out of fashion, and this will be the death of the culture that we love so dearly, even though we have forgotten that we love our culture. Perhaps when other cultures have replaced ours, we will remember how precious it is to us, and perhaps we will rediscover that our culture cannot be saved by other people's children.